Conspiracy fall in Zimbabwe. Islamic terrorists have planned to assassinate the president Robert Mugabe. The World War III officially began. Kim Jong-un launched a nuclear missile on the White House because Donald Trump said that his hair are more beautiful. Last night, an earthquake of magnitude 10 hit the Nunavut. The steel population was reduced to nothing, and one man got injured. But the authorities are not afraid for his life. It's Thursday, May 4. Hi everyone, I'm Michael, newsman. On this International Day of Poetry, we're gonna have a special guest. So after the break, Thomas, our specialist in poetry, reporter, journalist, and singer, will present to you a poet known under the name of Ernest Hemingway. Broadcast is sponsored by Natural Valley. Hi Thomas.
Hi.
And other than the fact that you are single and you are actively looking for a girlfriend,
Yeah.
what do you want to tell us?
So I want to tell us, welcome everybody to our new special episode for the National Day of Poetry. This year we decided to change the concept of our show. Indeed, we worked hard with all of our colleagues to find some unknown poets that are or were extremely talented in the only way to make you discover new writers.
Nice.
Lots of the famous poets had already been presented in the past show, like in the past years, but we finally agree over a well-known artist. We will show to you a secret side of his work on today's episode. So Ernest Hemingway and his work in poetry will be our main subject in today's episode. We will present to you another side of Mr. Hemingway. Indeed, he had written many poems, and we will make you discover four of them in the most beautiful day of the year, the National Day of Poetry.
So, four poems will be analyzed and explained to you by my colleagues later in the show. So, Thomas, can you give us some information of the life of Ernest Hemingway? He was a novelist before becoming a poet, I think, yeah?
Yeah. To enter in the subject, Mr. Hemingway was known as a famous novelist, short story writer, and a journalist. Ernest Miller Hemingway, his real name, he was born in July 21st in 1899 and raised in Oak Park in Illinois. He died in July 2 in 1961 at 61 years old in Idaho.
His beginning in adult life was not easy. He was going to war, if I'm not wrong.
You're right. When he was young, he responded to a Red Cross recruitment and signed on to become an ambulance driver in Italy, so during the First World War. Back from war, he began to live in Europe with his wife, and he also began to write. This writer produced most of his work between the mid-1920s and the mid-1950s.
And he wrote how many novels?
During these years, so between 1920 and 1950, he published 7 novels.
Okay, but writing was not his only talent, was it?
No, he did not only write novels. He was able to write every type of literature. He wrote six short story collection, 2 non-fiction works in addition of the novels, and many others.
And he was rewarded with two well and recognized honors for a writer.
Yeah, Mr. Hemingway won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1953 and the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954.
And you have some other interesting fact about his life, I think. He was considered in the lost generation, but where this term came from?
Oh, to continue, as I said before, Ernest Hemingway lived between 1899 and 1961. His generation was come to age during the World War I, and it is considered as the lost generation by others. The term lost generation was popularized by Ernest Hemingway. This generation was characterized by the word lost in the meaning not vanished but disoriented, wondering a recognition that there was a great confusion among the war survivor in the early post-war years. So these artists lived during the last generation period of these artists lived during the last generation, a period of time where their work was affected by the last generation. This generation was characterized as partying, drinking, they were spending a lot of money, and they were coping with life to forget about all they seen in war. The work of all artists in the last generation was influenced by it. Indeed, they did not have the same values as the past generations, and this is why their text and literature is different by this time. All the horrors that they have seen, do, heard, or think at war can be found in their wonderful texts. This is one of the main reasons why these authors revolutionized literature.
So thank you, Thomas. It was very good.
Yeah, no problem.
Before we leave, because of what is happening in the world with terrorism and war, I want to cite a poem of Shel Silverstein, who was an American poet, singer, songwriter, cartoonist, screenwriter, and author of children's books, which goes as follows.
I will not play at tug of war. I'd rather play at tug of war, where everyone's hugs instead of tugs, where everyone giggles and rolls on the rug, where everyone kisses and everyone grins, and everyone cuddles and everyone wins.
So this was the first part of the show, I think the most instructive one. Don't quite us now, we also have 4 poem analyses done by Hugo and Marianne, to come later on the episode. Thank you.
So, thank you, Felix Antoine. This descriptive part is there to put you in the mood of the author. By doing this, you can learn important information about the author, his lifestyle, the period of time he lived in, and many others. It can be helpful while listening to the poem to understand it clearly and to do a better analysis of the poem. It was a pleasure to do the research about Ernest Hemingway, the time he lived in, and to find an unknown side of his writing skills since he is such a great writer. It is nice to discover some new side of writers to find out their full talent and to see in which they have more facilities to write and to see all of their potential.
So now, Marianne, our reporter, will analyze 2 wonderful poems of Ernest Hemingway. I like Canadian and I like American. To you, Marianne.
Thank you, Michael. I am Marianne Blouin, and I will talk to you about 2 of Ernest Hemingway's poems that he wrote during his career. One of them is called I Like Canadians, and the other one is called I Like Americans. So I will start with I Like Canadians. Here's how it goes. By a foreigner. I like Canadians. They are so unlike Americans. They go home at night. Their cigarettes don't smell bad. Their hats fit. They really believe that they won the war. They don't believe in literature. They think art has been exaggerated, but they are wonderful on ice skates. A few of them are very rich, but when they are rich, they buy more horses than motor cars. Chicago calls Toronto a Puritan town, but both boxing and horse racing are illegal in Chicago. Nobody works on Sunday. Nobody. That doesn't make me mad. There is only one Woodbine. But were you ever at Blue Bonnets? If you kill somebody with a motor car in Ontario, you are liable to go to jail. So it isn't done. There have been over 500 people killed by motor cars in Chicago so far this year. It is hard to get rich in Canada, but it is easy to make money. There are too many tea rooms, but then there are no cabarets. If you tip a waiter a quarter, he says thank you instead of calling the bouncer. But they let women stand up in the streetcars, even if they are good looking. They are all in a hurry to get home to supper, and they're idiots. They are fine people. I like them. And here is how his second poem, I Like Americans, goes. By a foreigner. I like Americans. They are so unlike Canadians. They do not take their policemen seriously. They come to Montreal to drink, not to criticize. They claim they won the war, but they know at heart that they didn't. They have such respect for Englishmen. They live like to live abroad. They do not brag about how they take baths, but they take them. Their teeth are so good, and they wear BVDs all the year round. I wish they didn't brag about it. They have the second best navy in the world, but they never mention it. They would like to have Henry Ford for president, but they will not elect him. They saw through Bill Bryan. They have gotten tired of Billy Sunday. Their men have such funny haircuts. They are hard to stuck in on Europe. They have been there once. They produced Barney Google, Mutt and Jeff, and Jigs. They do not hang lady murderers. They put them in vaudeville. They read the Saturday Evening Post and believe in Santa Claus. When they make money, they make a lot of money. They are fine people. So here is a comparison of them. So first of all, he starts both poems by saying by a foreigner, even though he actually was American. He was from Chicago. And he also starts both of them by saying, I like Americans, they are so unlike Canadians, or I like Canadians, they are so unlike Americans. So he contradicts himself in both of the poems. Something else he does is that he talks about many subjects. It's really not only one theme in each poem. For example, he talks about clothing, health, transportation, politics, entertainment, and even Santa Claus. He also says good and bad things about both countries. The example is seen in I Like Canadians when he says, they think art has been exaggerated, but they are wonderful on ice skates. Here we see that he sees someone not liking art or saying that it's exaggerated as something bad for a person, but he says that they're good on ice skates, which has no link with art, but he just keeps talking about it. Also, they both are very long poems, but they don't have many poetic devices. They have a few rhymes, but that's it. There's nothing else. Also, it's not very organized. It just looks like someone is talking, like your old uncle is just talking to you on Christmas Eve. For example, when he talks about something and it makes him think of something else, he just goes to that subject, and sometimes he goes back to the old subject. An example is in also I Like Canadians, when he says a few of them are very rich, but when they are rich, they buy more horses than motor cars. And then 7 verses later, he says if you kill somebody with a motor car in Ontario, you are liable to go to jail. So it isn't done. There have been over 500 people killed by motor cars in Chicago so far this year. So it just looks like he wants to show them what he knows. And this is how we see that he is more of an author than a poet. He just talks about what comes to his mind without really thinking of any devices that should be done. Back to you, Félix Antoine.
Thanks, Marianne, for this good analysis. Now Hugo will analyze for us 2 more poetic poems. So to you, Hugo.
Thank you very much, Félix Antoine and Marianne, for introducing those poems. On the other hand, Hemingway did not only make long and unpoetic poems like Marianne introduced. He also wrote short and intense poems such as Valentine and All Armies Are the Same. I will start by reading Valentine to demonstrate to you how he could express much emotions in 2 short lines. Then I will analyze this poem and do the same for the second poem, All Armies Are the Same. I'm going to start with Valentine, that goes like this. If my Valentine you won't be, I'll hang myself on your Christmas tree. In this very short poem, we can identify all the intensity that is compressed into 2 single sentences that state a high level of love as well as a high level of deep depression and obsession. For the speaker would give his life to be the Valentine of the person in question, you have to demonstrate actually a high level of love. We can then conclude that Hemingway must have been a true lover or maybe a mad lover, and that one can put as much meaning in a 2-lined poem as in a very long poem, both things that Hemingway mastered through the years. Now I will read the second poem, All Armies Are the Same, and I will analyze it for you to fulfill the experience of the poem. Here it goes. All armies are the same. Publicity is fame. Artillery makes the same old noise. Valor is an attribute of boys. Old soldiers all have tired eyes. All soldiers hear the same old lies. dead bodies always have drawn flies. In this small poem, Hemingway images the intensity and the horror of war with the perfect use of metaphors and tone. This poem also effectively shows the emotions that the author felt during the First World War, where he served as an ambulance driver. In the first line, where written "all armies are the same," Hemingway makes the readers understand that whichever camp you were in, all armies are composed of humans that had to fight and had to survive this horror. The same idea comes back throughout the entire poem. Artillery makes the same old noise. Here we can notice first that the author chose the word noise instead of sound to express the sound made by the cannons. This choice really intensifies the horror of the theme, since this choice put emphasis on the cacophony of the cannon. Moreover, this line signifies that even after the war has ended, those memories are still in the mind of the soldiers that have to live with this sound that haunts them. The next line is "Valor is an attribute of boys." In this line, the author tries to explain that everyone at war will be valorized after the war, even if they're either dead or still alive, since going through all this horror must be valorized. Next line, "Old soldiers all have tired eyes," expresses that the soldiers are left exhausted physically as much as mentally and drained of love and happiness, and that's only for the lucky ones who survived. Furthermore, all soldiers hear the same old lies. In this line, the author presents that every soldier gets the same mental training to be motivated and prepared to kill before having to act as cannon fodder for a cause they don't understand, or that maybe they think they understand but they truly not. Finally, the author concludes with the powerful line, "Dead bodies always have drawn flies." This sentence again supports the idea in which all soldiers, whichever camp they were in, are human and in the end will draw flies. Overall, we can feel that this poem succeeds to make the reader understand the pain and the fear as much as the horror that the soldiers of the First World War had to undergo. The author really succeeded in making us understand this. Thank you very much, and back to you, Michael.
Sadly, this special cast for the National Day of Poetry is coming to an end.
If you have stayed until the end, thank you.
We will finish this great episode dedicated to poetry by, of course, a poem.
Areas Advice to a Son by Ernest Hemingway. Never trust a white man, never kill a Jew, never sign a contract, never rent a pew.
Don't enlist in armies, nor marry many wives. Never write for magazines, never scratch your hives.
Always put paper on the seat, don't believe in wars, keep yourself both clean and neat, never marry horse.
Never pay a blackmailer, never go to law, never trust a publisher, or you'll sleep on straw.
All your friends will leave you, all your friends will die. So lead a clean and wholesome life, enjoying them in the sky.
With these wise words, we hope you to have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.